my op-ed today over at HartmannReport.com is all about Victor Orbán because he's visiting Donald Trump tomorrow. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Orbán will no doubt be bringing with him, because he is a foreign head of state, he will be bringing with him what's called a diplomatic pouch. This can be as small as an envelope or as large as a 3 by 3 by 3 foot suitcase. It's all a diplomatic pouch, and it has absolute immunity from inspection as he's coming into the country and leaving the country. So Orbán may well be bringing a letter from Putin or specific instructions from Putin to Trump. And when Orbán leaves Mar-a-lago, the big question in my mind is, what will Trump have gotten out of this? Trump is desperate for cash right now. He needs $500 million to pay off the fines, or at least to be able to even appeal the judgments against him in the New York fraud case, in which he was convicted of business fraud, and in the E. Jean Carroll case, in which he was convicted of essentially rape, and in order to pay damages for that and for defamation. So Vladimir Putin could easily give him that money, and for that matter, so could Victor Orbán. Victor Orbán is an oligarch himself. He's now a billionaire. He was just a poor politician when he came into office, but he runs one of the most corrupt regimes, in fact, the most corrupt regime in Europe. Maybe Turkey probably beats him, but anyhow, you get the point. And Turkey, is Turkey part of Europe? That's been a debate for a lot of years. But Orbán's coming to town, and I'm just wondering, what's this going to be all about? Number one. And number two, my article, the whole point of my article is to remind everybody who Victor Orbán actually is, and and what he has done, and what he has done to Hungary in particular. Orbán, in fact, when he spoke to CPAC, he hosted a CPAC, hate fest in Budapest. And then he came to Texas and he spoke to CPAC there too. And he said, this is from his speech to a Republican audience in Budapest last May. He said, Hungary is actually an incubator where experiments are done on the future of conservative policies. Hungary is the place where we didn't just talk about defeating the progressives and liberals and causing a conservative Christian political turn, but we actually did it. And, I think it's pretty important to note what Orbán has done in Europe. I mean, first of all, he's made himself rich, which is something that Donald Trump made a pile of money when he was in the White House. When Orbán took over the Fidesz party, this was back in 2009 and 2010. 2010 was when he was elected to office. His slogans were restore Christian purity and make Hungary great again. He campaigned on building a wall across the entire southern border of Hungary, and he actually did it to keep out brown-skinned, quote, rapists and murderers. These were people fleeing Syria from the Russian bombing. He altered the nation's constitution to enable gerrymandering and voter suppression, so he wins every election no matter what. He's packed the courts, particularly the Hungarian Supreme Court. He passed laws requiring conservative sex education in schools. In other words, gay is bad and abstinence only. He's criminalized any positive portrayal of queer people on TV. In public campaigns, he's conflated homosexuality with pedophilia, and the penalties for being openly gay are draconian. His latest anti-gay law passed the Hungarian parliament by a vote of 157-1. And Republicans, of course, here are trying to do the same thing. He railed against teaching multiracialism and racial tolerance, instead rewriting elementary school textbooks to proclaim that refugees entering the country are a threat because it can be problematic for different cultures to coexist. That's a quote. Under this logic, he's locked up brown-skinned Syrian refugee children in cages. When the Helsinki Committee said Hungary's, quote, indefinite detention of many vulnerable migrants, including families with small children, is cruel and inhuman, end quote. Orbán said that the refugees, quote, pose a security risk and endanger the continent's Christian culture and identity. He added, immigration brings increased crime, especially crimes against women, and lets in the virus of terrorism. Which is kind of weird. I mean, we're seeing the exact different thing, here in the United States. Those cities that have taken the most migrants, mostly, unwillingly, but, because Greg Abbott has been shipping them to Chicago and Philadelphia and New York City. They've all seen their crime rates go down. Down. Anyhow, Orbán has handed government contracts to his buddies. Virtually all the press is now in his hands. He told CPAC, in fact, he said, have your own media. It's the only way to point out the insanity of the progressive left. The problem is that the Western media is adjusted to the leftist. They can't compete with mainstream liberal media. My friend Tucker Carlson is the only one who puts himself out there. His show is the most popular. What does it mean? It means programs like Tucker's should be broadcast day and night, or as you say, 24/7. You got a standing ovation for that one at CPAC. And then he started banning media, and so CPAC did the same thing. They banned Rolling Stone, they banned Vox Media, they banned New Yorker, they banned The Guardian, they banned the Associated Press. This is how conservatives think that, government should be run. You don't like the coverage from the media? Ban them. It's been done in fact, in opening comments, CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp said CPAC has decided to go Hungarian in their approach to the media. Right. The EU tried to get him impeached. It just made him more popular. He has helped violent theocrats reinvent Christianity, embracing a hard right movement within the Catholic Church and in the Protestant community. He reshaped Hungary's abortion laws, so it's almost impossible for a white woman in Hungary to get an abortion. Not so hard for gypsies, or the Roma people, excuse me. The Central European University had to flee Hungary. I mean, they were actually threatening their professors. It just goes on and on and on. I mean, it's just he's ruthlessly using his own nation's diplomatic and criminal justice systems to aid foreign criminal oligarchs. He's the only leader of a European nation to refuse to condemn Putin for his slaughter in Ukraine, saying he doesn't want to get in the middle of the thing. I mean, he's arresting people for posting bad things about him on Facebook. This is the world that Donald Trump wants. Orbán, and Trump has said this before, Orbán is essentially his role model. So hang on to your hat. It's going to get wild.